I reviewed all 45 kits in Roblox BedWars and ranked them from worst to best. Since not all kits are created for the same purpose, in this tier list I separated farming kits from multi-purpose and combat kits. What that means: farming kits are any kits that can gain iron, emeralds, or diamonds for their team. This video literally took me 12 hours to record and many hours to edit, so please hit that like button and subscribe if you find it helpful and want to support the channel. Now, everyone has their own playstyle, so these rankings may vary a bit depending on your specific playstyle, right? So it should be pretty close to this list, but if it's a little different, that's okay, I understand. When reviewing these kits, I did consider the upfront cost of being able to use the kit's abilities. So for example, if you had to buy something that was very expensive, like a flamethrower for a bunch of emeralds, versus something that you just get for free, like YUZI's sword. The other thing I took a look at is whether or not the kit was useful late game. So if you're late game and you have a kit that you can't really use versus something that's really useful late game and so on. So I really analyzed all of these kits to give you the best review possible. Another important disclaimer is that the dev team does make changes to kits on a regular basis. So keep that in mind when watching this video and make sure that the devs haven't changed anything since the video before you comment. Because if you say DV, it costs this or it doesn't do that and so on, I can't help it if the devs change stuff. Now let's dig into the generalized kits first, and then we're going to get into the farming kits afterwards. Starting with number 38 is the Trapper. This has to be one of the worst kits currently in the game, and while I realize some people are built different and can make the Trapper look awesome, let's just face the music here. If you're really good at the game, you don't really need the Trapper kit to be good at the game. You could just make it look good, but it's not good, okay? For the average player, it's not going to be a good kit. The traps are easily avoided, and every single time I've faced a Trapper, there's been no issue. Easily killed, easily avoided traps. If I did get trapped, I didn't die. They're just bad, okay? They don't do much damage to you. They don't hold you for very long. It's just not worth wasting your iron on. This kit could be really great for various game modes, but sadly it falls short until they buff it. So if I were to use this kit, especially if they buff it, I could see it being really useful for games like CTF, where, you know, you want to protect your flag and maybe trap them so you can return the flag. So it's really meant to be like an invisible trap, in my opinion, that you can trap someone that's trying to escape you. I'm giving this kit, sadly, a 2 out of 10 rating. Next, with number 37, is a kit that looks amazing but just doesn't match its looks, and that's Jack. Jack's ability is to throw oil blobs that can cause repeated damage to anyone that walks over it. It also has a bit of a slickness to it, so your character ends up sliding around a little bit. The only people who really use this and that I've seen are those who are trying to combo Jack's abilities with Barbarian to gain, fast rage, because every single tick that it does to damage, wise to enemies, the Barbarian's getting that, rage, right? They're building that rage to get their rage blade. Alternatively, what I've really seen people use it for is to grief their own team. It could be a really cool kit, but sadly it falls really short considering the cost of 1 emerald per oil blob and the fact that characters standing on the blob are able to heal just as fast as they take damage. You'll usually only find Jack being used in matches like 30v30 where there are a lot of players. Again, give this blob to a Barbarian friend and you might be able to, load them up with some, rage for Rage Blade, but purely based on the fact that this kit does not reward the actual player using the kit, I would give this kit a 3 out of 10 rating and only 1 point more than Trapper, since it's helpful to Barbarians at least and fun for griefers. With number 36, it's going to cause a lot of controversy, okay? There's a lot of diehard fans of LASSY out there, and I get it. She can be pretty cool, and she's fun to play with. And yeah, you can clutch pretty well with her if you wanted to, but since my audience is kind of broad, we need to rate this kit on a broad usage, not, the 10 out of 1,000 players who know how to use her. Her lasso range, aim time, and damage have a lot to be desired, and, while I do have a lot of fun playing as her and trolling, I also know how to use her. Number 35 had so much potential until they nerfed him again after buffing, and that's Pirate DAVEY. So DAVEY was a bottom tier kit for so long until they finally buffed him, and he does have some really cool abilities. First of all, he gets discounted TNT, which is huge, right? I mean, you can get TNT faster or cheaper. I mean, it's not so much that you're going to actually be able to load up even more, but it's enough to make it worthwhile. The other really cool thing is you can launch players from his cannon. So if you can buy his cannon, you can either launch TNT through it or players, which is pretty cool because that means you can launch players to maybe other bases who can't really easily get to you because you're on the other side of the map. Now, the issue that I found with this kit when I was using him is that there's a lot of variety in his cannon on the physics of it. It's really unpredictable. You aim it, sometimes you end up killing yourself, which is really bad if you are loaded up on gear or have really good items. So if you have a really good item and you end up in the void because you use the cannon, it kind of backfired against you, no pun intended. It's a really buggy kit, and part of it's just, maybe if the devs added some more predictable physics to it where exactly where you're going to land, maybe like an indicator on the ground or some kind of line line or something, like, you know, an arc kind of like pearls, then maybe this kit would be worth using. But for now, it's too risky to ever use consistently. So for now, this guy gets a 3 out of 10. Coming in at 34 is Santa, and Santa has 2 abilities. First is to mark a TNT bombing run with his presence wherever you want it to be, whether it be on an enemy bed, an enemy camping, whatever it is. The other ability is to lag the entire game to make it to a point where it is completely unplayable, because the lag from that bombing run is so great with those, you know, reindeer coming through the sky that most players can't really even like see what's going on. I guess that's kind of an ability in itself. The problem with this kit is that it's so expensive to do that bombing run, and the damage is so small that it's just better to always just go buy a fireball and use that instead of the TNT run. Unless you're just doing it for memes, great. That's really what the Santa kit's all about, is really for memeing these days. I don't know about you, I don't like that jingle bells are going while I'm trying to break someone's bed, and they have it's basically saying, hey, DAVEY's here to break your bed, why don't you go and defend it? Whereas a fireball, a pearl, and a, you know, pickaxe or axe break to your bed is how I prefer it. So I'll give this kit a 3 out of 10. With number 33 is a very troll kit. That's all it's really for. It's a troll kit, and that is a smoke kit. I think this kit was originally designed by the devs to be a, you know, like a stealth kit, because, you know, it's smoke. He's got like smoky blocks that are, you know, kind of no collision on them, and you got this invisible potion that you can use. And, you know, sadly, the kit has just become kind of a meme kit as well, similar to Santa, and that you're really just messing with players. You know, you can use these, like, you can create these fake beds, you can create fake, you know, bridges, you can hide beds. It's got some purpose, but it's really expensive. You also have limitations on the number of, you know, smoke blocks that you can actually buy. The other crazy thing that I found with the invisible potion is you can get canceled if you take damage. So, you know, if you're trying to drink the potion and you get hit by a bow or an arrow, or get hit by another player, there's no way you're going invisible with that, and I found that out the hard way. So again, it's just not a very good kit. I don't really see that many players using them. It's really just for trolling or griefing. So if you want to, you know, maybe make a fake bridge or something and see people die, go for it, but that's really all it's for. So I'm going to go and mark this one a 3 out of 10. Next up with number 32 is where things start getting warmed up to being more useful, and that is starting with gingerbread. Gingerbread does one thing and one thing well, and that's making gumdrops. These gumdrops serve as many functions, you know, whether it be a bounce pad, which is really just fun if you just don't really care about the, you know, match that's currently going on. You can just bounce on it if you want. It's fun. The nice thing about the gumdrops, though, besides the bounce pad aspect, is you do get some shields from jumping on it, as long as you're healed. If you're, you know, like half health, you're not going to get those shields because you're, you know, you need to regen first. But you can jump on that gumdrop and it'll give you some shields, which are nice. The other nice thing is you don't take any fall damage if you use the gumdrop. So if you know, really high up in the map and you don't want to take any fall damage, just jump off the, you know, gumdrop and off you go, and you won't take any fall damage. The downside is it can be stolen. So, you know, your teammates can, you know, take your gumdrop away and put it in their inventory, or an enemy can take your gumdrop and use it against you. So, you know, I've done that many times. I just steal them and I use it against them. And that is kind of a, you know, why this kit's not as high ranked as I would like it to be. It's just really easy to just go and steal it and take it for yourself. Even so, you know, I'd give this kit a 5 out of 10 rating because it's useful and it could be great in most game modes. It's not a great kit. It's a good kit. Next up with number 31 is Alchemist. I was torn on putting this one into the farming kits category because, you know, it kind of has something to do a little bit. You're making stuff, you're crafting stuff, but the reality is you're not getting any iron or diamonds or emeralds with it. So I settled it into this category. This kit has some really cool splash potions, especially the health potions. There's a sleeping potion, which is pretty good too, but the health potion is the most OP one, and it is pretty deadly in matches because you get instant heals. You don't have to eat, you don't have to wait, you just launch it. So you can pretty much get infinite heals as long as you have a bunch of these. The downside here is that, you know, one is the cauldron that you use for the alchemist can be destroyed very easily, unlike the baker, who can also make stuff for healing. And, you know, if you destroy the cauldron, the character's kind of, you know, you got to go make another one, and you got to brew, and you got to wait, and you also have to go around the map gathering resources out as the alchemist. So I don't see it as a really powerful kit. I see it as kind of fun to use. Maybe it belongs more in like a game like Islands. The fact is that we're really judging the kits based on their usefulness by themselves, and it's only good for feeding other players, you know, and you're not going to really be able to defend yourself with them very easily. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Next is a recent addition to the game, and that's number 30 with Sheep Herder. Sheep Herder is a weird kit. And I'm saying weird because it's I don't know, it's very situational. It also depends on the map, but you know how this works is a sheep herder gets more attack damage the more sheep you find and gather around the map, right? But the problem is it's really hard to find these sheep. There was one round where I was able to, you know, gather like 7 sheep, but that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work to get that damage, like a lot of work. And it was good early game, and it's nice that it's free damage, but the downside is sometimes, like I said, sheep are just too difficult to find. Sometimes they're across, you know, the map on an enemy base. I'm not going to go to the enemy's base to get its sheep. And the other problem with this one, it's a big flaw, is that if you die, you lose your sheep. So I think if it was more like ELDERTREE where you kept your sheep after you died, I think it would be a lot more powerful and a lot more useful. Otherwise, there's so many better kits out there like Axolotl Amy or ELDERTREE who keep their buffs. I would just avoid this kit in general, but the fact that, you know, it does have 0 cost to its abilities, you only have to find sheep, that makes it decent enough to give it a 5 out of 10 rating. Up next is VULCAN at number 29. This one was tough, but hear me out before you VULCAN fans complain. VULCAN is a ton of fun to use. He did get a really great buff, yes. He can be annoying with his turrets, and I've killed plenty of players with the turrets, but I have to say, I can't remember the last time I've been killed by a turret, if ever, other than messing around with players. The VULCAN is often vulnerable because you can't see anything around your avatar while you're using them, right? So you're stuck in the turret. You can't see what's around you. The other thing is turrets are really easily destroyed or blocked, and especially in bigger matches. You know, if you play in like a bigger match, you're probably going to get griefed by teammates who are going to either block your turret or they're just going to play and destroy it. It just isn't that great of a kit yet. And again, if you're against intermediate or newer players, you can maybe get some kills with it. And I'm sure you've gotten some kills with it. I mean, I've gotten kills with it. But if you're going to play against players that know how to play, it's not a very good kit, okay? And that's why I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10, because it is fun to use. Otherwise, you'd give it a lower rating. Next is Raven at number 28, and some of you are going to want Raven up a bit higher on the ranking list, but I'm going to, you know, have to rain on your parade a little bit here. My issue with this one is the cost and damage. The Ravens combined with static, yeah, totally powerful, insanely powerful, but they still require you to be in range and have those enchantments. And you need the emeralds to be able to even buy them. The upfront cost of a Raven is just too high. And I've only ever been killed by them in matches where maybe a barbarian or something is killing me and someone follows up with a raven or something. So only really as a support, you know, class or character. And another player was carrying and Raven would sit back, you know, just to kind of get me low. So Ravens are really just too easy to kill in general. And for that reason, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10 purely based on them being kind of a support character. Going to number 27 is the Warrior, and many are probably wondering how he made it above some of the other kits, but I'm going to explain that right now because, you know, a lot of people don't understand Warrior armor. The armor only costs a quarter of what Emerald armor costs. Like, it makes it super compelling that, only costs 10 emeralds compared to Emerald armor's 40 emeralds. The math is there. So with 30 emeralds, I can buy a Warrior armor and an Emerald sword. Versus with Emerald armor, I would have to pay 60 to be able to get an Emerald sword and Emerald armor. That's a lot of emeralds. So just the cost advantage there and the fact that I could get Warrior armor faster than you can get Emerald armor makes this kit pretty decent. I do find the Warrior armor enough of a reason to set him above other kits with a 6 out of 10 rating. Coming up to number 26 is a kit that recently moved up quite a bit from my last kit ranking video, and that's Melody. She recently got a buff where she can now heal herself a little bit while healing teammates, which makes her more appealing than before. She's still not quite as good as other heal ability kits, but still really great and can also multi-purpose as a tank at times, distracting players from the actual damage dealer. So if I'm maybe Melody and you see me, you might attack me while my teammate is attacking you who I'm healing. But besides that, I've seen how useful she is in matches. I've, used her. I've been healed by her. So I know how powerful she really is. And because of that, I'm going to give Melody a 6 out of 10 rating. Moving up the list to number 25 is Infernal Shielder, and this kit would be much higher in my list, but sadly it really fell short with the recent update to the kit. In my opinion, made this kit really bad. So Infernal Shielder recently had a really great buff where it reflected projectile damage. So anything thrown at it, basically if I threw a snowball at you and you had it, I would get it reflected back at me precisely. It also avoided damage from projectiles, which was nice. If I throw or shoot an arrow at you, then you don't take any damage and it just, comes back to me. As long as you have the shield up, of course. And on on top of that, while you had the shield up, it avoided knockback. The thing that I found was during the recording of this video, the kit doesn't really work anymore. I was getting hit by arrows and I was reflecting it back at him. It was hitting the ground. It wasn't even hitting them. So it's like something weird going on with the physics there. I'm also taking knockback damage from it, and I'm taking damage. So it's basically like, how is this any different from any other kit in the game? I don't see it. So other than maybe that I'm reflecting their projectile at them and missing, I don't really see it as being valuable. But right now, this one's stuck at 25 because it's just kind of this Infernal Shielder is a mess again. I don't really know where to put it. It's still kind of good, but it's mostly bad. So I'm just going to give him a 6 out of 10 for now. Now with number 24, the more I see players using this kit, the more I like it. The YETI includes the ability to do a YETI roar, which will turn all blocks surrounding it into ice, basically making the block brittle and super easy to destroy. So every time I've seen a YETI at my bed, I've panicked inside a bit because I know that they're only like one hit away from breaking my bed, because they can make a 2 to 3 layer bed defense look like there were no blocks there to begin with. I hate YETIs because of this, and because of that, I'm rating it higher because it is a deadly kit. It's a kit that you don't see often, or at least you don't see it used often. It's usually trouble when you do though, and this kit works in any game mode involving bed breaking. So I'm gonna give this one a 6 out of 10. I don't like this kit, but I also like it, so maybe I'll start using it. Next, we're sliding up to number 23 with FREIYA, a really, really cool kit that has a lot of potential. FREIYA had a lot of nerfs, though, since her release, and she's still a really decent kit with her ability to slow enemies after stacking hits on them. It's a really great kit if you need to slow someone, especially if, you see someone that's coming in and out as a runner or so, especially if it's like a mobility kit. You can use FREIYA to slow them down, which is really nice. There's a big drawback for her, though, and that's a Frost Sword costing 6 emeralds. That's a pretty costly sword, and if you get killed while holding it or in your inventory, obviously you're going to lose it just like any other sword. But it's the 6 emeralds that really got me. I'd rather just go buy a diamond sword with 4 and have a couple pearls or balloons on me. Those 2 emeralds are really, really standing out for me. It's that cost difference. I don't really like it because you can lose this weapon for that cost. It may be late game, but by the time you're in late game, if you're going up against a barbarian or an AERY, you're probably going to lose. FREIYA is just not as powerful as those characters or kits, and so I'm going to give FREIYA a 7 out of 10 rating just because she's still awesome. But, maybe go get a kit like Amy, Axolotl Amy, or CONQUEROR, who are going to pack a heavier punch than FREIYA by far. Moving to number 22 with TRINITY is a kit that can be really deadly depending on the player. So this kit can be, ranked higher if it didn't require that 3 kills in order to be able to activate or evolve into TRINITY abilities. So TRINITY has 2 different, evolutions. One is the light evolution, the other is a void evolution. And what happens is after you get your 3 kills, you get to choose the path. Do you want to go light or void? Light's kind of worthless in my opinion because you need teammates nearby for you to be able to even heal them, and they have to be really close. Even if they're at the same base that you're attacking, they're probably going to be on the other side of the the base or inside the spawn. I've never seen people like glued to you like that. It's not like your Melody that you're standing next to them attacking. Usually everyone's jumping around and such. So light I've never found any useful, and the other problem is it's so low of a heal that just isn't worth it. You might as well be Melody. Now on the void side, it's a completely different story. So the void is actually pretty useful in that you heal yourself the more damage you do to enemies. So it is a good kit. It's really deadly if you know how to use it. And, in my opinion, it's probably underutilized and it could be used more often by players, especially if you know how to kill. Because that extra heal that you're getting could actually make the difference in a combat scenario where you're evenly or equally geared. For now, I'm going to rate this one 7 out of 10. Next with number 21 is Vanessa, one of my favorite kits in the game. It's just so much fun to see those triple shots going off and hitting a player 3 times in a row, knocking them clear across the map, like right into the void. It's just so satisfying. Vanessa would easily be a top 15 kit for me if bows weren't so broken with the absorbs and arrows weren't so costly. The fact that you spend 16 iron on 8 arrows and you end up using 6 arrows literally in 2 shots, or at least 2 triple shots, this is a very costly kit to use. I'm always running out of arrows. Now, Vanessa can be really painful late game as well with enchants, but still with those absorbs, this kit is a bit of a mess and not really worth using most of the time, because they're going to be getting absorbed or missed in the game. But still, a really fun, powerful kit if you have decent aim and can tolerate the negatives. I'm rating her for now 7 out of 10. I hope she, gets a decent buff if they fix the arrows. Coming up to a new crazy kit that is both hilarious and frightening when it's running at you, and that's the Croco Wolf. This is really the only kit in the game currently that gives players an advantage when their bed is broken. So, when beds break, Croco Wolf will actually transform into a beast and gets an insane speed boost and increased knockback, making this kit really amazing for solos, doubles, and really any game mode, but mainly those because, think about that advantage. The main challenge with him is getting used to handling the speed because I don't know about you. When you get that fast, it's really hard to stay on bridges and stuff. Like, you're trying to do single block runs, you're going to overshoot so much stuff with his speed. The other downside is he's really just an insurance plan, okay? So if your team has really good defense, this kid is kind of pointless, since his ability really relies on that bed breaking. But I really like using him, especially if I know I'm going to let them break my bed. It's just fun running around like and collecting all the emeralds and just knocking people off the map. Like, even if you don't care about winning, it's so much fun. But for that, I'm still going to give him a 7 out of 10 rating. Next up is number 19 with PYRO, a kit that can really cause some mean damage once you learn how to use them well. PYRO's DPS is so high, but the downside is that you can't even use the kit until you get those 3 emeralds to even buy the flamethrower in the first place. Without 3 emeralds, you're essentially kitless though, because you don't have a flamethrower. The other aspect is that this kit is way more beneficial with teammates, you know, especially since you can be a support for them. Still, PYRO packs a heavy punch, especially if you use enchants. For that, it's going to be a 7 out of 10 rating for me. Moving to number 18 is Archer. This one pains me a lot since bows are one of my favorite aspects of BedWars, but they've been broken for so long. I've really grown to dislike them. Like, I really don't like using the bow unless I have to. It's still kind of fun because, you know, look, I like the bowing mechanic, but I don't like seeing the absorbs. It pains me. I feel like there's this whole new mechanic in the game where there's like an accuracy percentage that you might have a chance of hitting them even though you hit them in the face. You might have a chance of actually doing any damage. That's kind of how I look at bows now. The Archer does get 20% damage to projectiles though, which means it's not just arrows that get damage boost, but all projectiles. And in my tests, I did see that fireballs did more damage than a non-Archer kit, which is pretty interesting. It also has access to the tactical crossbow that costs 1 emerald less than the wooden crossbow. So wooden crossbow currently is 7 emeralds. Tactical requires 6. And that's crazy. Not only is that crazy, but tactical crossbow has more accuracy. I think the arrow shoots faster and it does way more damage. Now, if arrow absorbs weren't such a problem still, this kit would be easily a top 5 kit again. But, you know, maybe if the dev team ever fixes arrow absorb issues, you know, I'd main this kit again. For now, it's an 8 out of 10, which is still pretty high for what it deserves. But, man, I really hope they fix arrows because that's what I want to do. I just want to shoot arrows all day. I want to be a bow spammer again. Next is Wizard at number 17. This kit is as powerful as it is annoying to play against. The Wizard staff does require emeralds, which makes sense considering its abilities. If you had it right out the gate, it'd be way too powerful. The staff has 2 modes. One is a lightning strike. The other is a lightning orb. The lightning strike causes medium damage. I would say medium because you can't really, I mean, you're not going to die from it technically. It's a bit of work to die from it. And so it won't necessarily kill opponents without maybe enchants, but it is really good for crowd control to disperse players protecting their bed. So if, you know, they're camping the generator or camping their bed, you know, you can kind of get them away from that area. Additionally, the lightning orb can be used to slow players chasing you or to damage players within a building. So, you know, that thing bounces around as soon as it hits something, which is kind of nice. So you can kind of do like a little bit of a ping pong, you know, kind of effect off of walls inside of a building. And when you combine any of these staff's abilities with enchantments, though, it does make it super, super powerful. Like, put static on that thing or even fire, it's deadly. You can really kill players very easily with it. So, like some of the other kits, though, coming up, I've used these kits to win mini games. So I'm rating this kit 8 out of 10. Coming up with number 16 is a really powerful kit in early game, and that's Frosty. So Frosty has the ability to auto-generate snowballs every so many seconds, and it gives you a really, really crazy early advantage against rushers and runners because you can damage them and you can slow them slightly with the snowballs that you get. They're basically free. They don't cost anything, which is really, really nice. Now, while the kit isn't as powerful as it used to be, it's still really great, and, you know, it's a great all-around or general purpose kit, especially for early game, and especially in fast-paced, you know, matches. Like if you're going to play duels, doubles, or solos, it's a really good kit. It could be better late game, but, you know, you kind of need enchants for that. Like you can use fire enchants and such with this kit, and it's still pretty good. I'm going to rate Frosty an 8 out of 10. Up next is number 15 with Nyx. This one was really tough for me to place, okay? Because I want to like Nyx. I really want to like this kit. And the kit's had a bad reputation since her release as being a level 50 battle pass kit. And all of that is pretty fair, right? So I think that criticism is fair. She is a level 50. She should be pretty powerful. I mean, you had AERY last time. Why wouldn't this one be pretty cool too? I was going to rank her lower, but in my recent test, she's actually really good at comboing. I'm really, really surprised by her. She's certainly not better than some of the other kits coming up, but once you know how to use her and understand her limits, she's insane. Now, her abilities do diminish, at least her damage does diminish over time in late game, especially against heavily armored players. So if you're going to go up against someone that's emerald armored, for example, she's not going to be very good. You kind of need to gear up and be able to, you know, be more powerful. I am going to rate her an 8 out of 10 purely because of the late game challenges that you're going to find. But overall, I was surprised, man. She's really good. Next is one of my favorite kits, and that's number 14 with Spirit Catcher. This should be no surprise. Spirit Catcher is an incredible kit, despite the nerfs made to her with the limit on how many spirits you can have and place and such. Now, the Spirit Catcher is an easy kit for all skill levels, since the spirits will automatically attack anyone that comes in range to them. So it's really excellent for players who aren't very good at, actively defending their bed. Maybe they're, often losing their bed, or they know there's going to be a lot of rushers, and, maybe they're multitasking, or maybe they're farming, whatever it is. Especially great if you have enchants, like some kind of fire enchant or even static enchants, because you're going to take out players even faster, but that fire enchant's really good to take out ballooners. I've even used this kit, honestly, to kill emerald armored players when I was under geared. A lot of people like to balloon, and because of that, it's just so easy to kill them, especially because you're going to knock them into the void most likely if they're trying to attack your bed. And at that point, if you have fire enchants with the spirits, you're probably going to knock them to the void from the fire enchants alone, unless they pearl away. So I'm going to give Spirit Catcher a 9 out of 10. The next two are going to be very familiar or similar to each other, and that's Jade and Void Regent. Now, starting with Jade, she comes with a hammer that you need to buy from the item shop, and it does have the ability to knock other players up in the air upon her hammer leaps impact. It's a good all-around mobility kit and can be pretty annoying to chase around the map. The other bonus of mobility kits like her, Void Regent, and YUZI is their ability to move quickly and upwards with their leaps while ballooning. So if you're stuck in the void with balloons, you can actually move up a bit by doing a little leap. So I've seen a lot of people clutch, like if they're just near a wall, they can kind of do that little leap and then start using blocks to get back out of the void. It's really crazy seeing them do this, but it can also give them a chance to pearl away, and it's just nice because it slows the movement down and also makes it so it's harder to hit them with arrows if they're doing that jump. Still, even though I own all kits, I typically use YUZI because, of the attack range, and so Jade sits at a 9 out of 10 rating at number 13. The next one should be no surprise, which is Void Regent. Regent was a limited time kit that you can no longer purchase, much like Jade. Jade was a battle pass kit, and the difference being is that he has an axe attack that does some damage to nearby players. The challenge with this one is, well, so can YUZI, and YUZI is still available, right? You can still buy YUZI. The one thing I do like about Regent, as well as Jade though, over YUZI is their ability to activate their, essentially their leap mid-air, whereas YUZI requires you to like preload it or pre-charge it before you can actually take a dive into that void. So I know a lot of players, who had the chance to buy Regent still prefer it over Jade or YUZI, but I still think it comes down to play preference. If you really like that style where you instantly do the axe jump or the hammer jump versus YUZI's preload, it really just comes down to preference, like I said. For now, I'm rating this one a 9 out of 10. Next one, number 11, is a kit many still remember being the worst kit in the game, and that's the Builder. The Builder is a really powerful kit now with his ability to reinforce blocks with his hammer by spending iron on them. Now, he used to have these, he used to have this ability too, right? This is not a new ability, but now these reinforced blocks can withstand TNT and Fireball Blast, making them really painful to go against, especially if they're trying to break your bed, with TNT or Fireballs. It's just not going to happen, okay? The other thing is they're a lot harder to break than before. They got to spend a little bit of time on it. That alone makes this kit a 9 out of 10 kit for me. Finally, entering our top 10 kits, starting with number 10, which is the Baker. This was once one of the top 3 kits in the game because of its high mobility with the pies it can purchase from the item shop, and because you can buy apples from the shop to heal yourself whenever you take damage. The combination of both makes this Baker really one of the best mobility kits in the game because you take damage, you heal. You want to go a little faster and get away from people, just eat the pie. The only negatives are that the cost of pies can add up. It's 1 emerald per pie, but they do last a while, which is nice. Especially now that the pearls only cost 1 emerald, it's much easier to catch Bakers, but they're still a really big pain to chase around, especially if they are geared. If they're geared, good luck. If they've got, emerald armor, good luck. And for that, I'm going to rate the Baker 9 out of 10. Coming in with number 9 is Gompy. Yeah, that ghost catcher guy. Gompy is absolutely powerful, and most, I think, underestimate this kit. It is so much fun to use this kit, and it is so powerful. I've used him a ton. You can take out any level player there is, either with his knockback or insane ghost damage. His ghost does a lot of damage, okay? His vacuum for catching ghosts is also very affordable, so you can get it pretty early in the game, and there are plenty of ghosts to be found wherever I'm using them. And I've never had an issue finding them. Unlike Sheep Herder, you can find ghosts everywhere. The main challenge is you need to have aim. Beyond that, he's insanely good. I've won so many games with Gompy. I never have an issue using him. And, because of that, I'm going to rate him a 9 out of 10. Next with number 8 is a kit similar to Gompy, and that's Aries. And to make sure you heard me correctly, I didn't say AERY, I said Aries. Aries has the ability to buy spears, which pack a heavy punch when hit by them, especially with enchants. You can buy up to 3 spears at a time. They only cost 30 iron each. The downside is they did cap the spears, at 3. So, they used to be able to, I think they had like no limit at one point, and then they added a 10 limit, but now it's down to 3. But even that, it's still a powerful kit. Given the right skill though and experience using this kit, he's insane. The only negatives is that the spears don't always register their hits. From my, I was playing around with them a lot, and I found that sometimes they just don't register the hits, just kind of like the arrow absorbs, making it a waste of iron at times. And you also need to have decent aim to use him. I'm rating Aries a 9 out of 10. Next up at number 7 is Axolotl Amy, and she's an all-around great kit, and one I usually recommend to players, who are new to the game and want a good kit. She's easy to use since all you need to do is buy the Axolotl from the shop and off you go. The first Axolotl you buy comes with a 10% shield bonus to you and any nearby ally for 20 iron. It's just 20 iron to buy this thing, and making this an amazing rush kit for any mode. For another 50 iron though, you can buy the damage Axolotl, and that boosts you and another ally's damage by 20%. So if there's a nearby ally that is needing some damage boost, then your Axolotl will rush over to them and help them out. That's an insane buff, and not many people realize that. They don't really consider that buff. The other 2 Axolotls that you can buy for Amy aren't really worth it because they cost so many emeralds. It's better just go buy other gear instead, unless you have nothing else to spend them on. The fact that the Axolotls work on teammates is huge, and why she's a top 10 kit. I'm going to rate her 10 out of 10. Next up with number 6 is the Grim Reaper, an all-around great kit that packs mobility and self-heals all in a single kit. When you get a kill with the Grim Reaper, you can absorb the player's soul that you killed, and it'll give you a temporary boost of speed, and it'll give you some heals and essentially invulnerability for a bit. But the downside is, while you're in this state, you cannot do anything. You can't do any damage. All you can do is run around and move. It's a really amazing kit when you're outnumbered. So if you're, maybe it's a 2v1 scenario, you can take multiple players out pretty well. Especially if you're going in and there's a couple players left on a base that has no bed, you can pretty much clean up with this kit. Definitely a 10 out of 10 kit and worth owning. Next with number 5 is another great kit for new players and experience, and that's the ELDERTREE. ELDERTREE is a super simple kit where you collect orbs around the map, which increase your max health. Downside is you can't buy armor, but that's the trade-off considering the health increase costs you nothing, leaving you with all this extra iron that you could spend on other things like better weapons and tools. ELDERTREEs are often found in duels, doubles, and solos because of their early game advantage on smaller maps. They can be taken out pretty easily in squads though, so unless you end up facing a lot of them, you're pretty good against them. They're not going to take you out unless you let them keep growing and getting bigger, and you never gear up. If you're new to BedWars, I'd highly recommend either this kit or Axolotl Amy for your first kit. Rating this one easily a 10 out of 10. It's been consistently a top 5 kit. With number 4 is YUZI, one of the best mobility kits currently in the game. When she first came out, she was absolutely insane and easily the number 1 kit, but after some nerfs, she lost her throne. You're going to find YUZI in a lot of games because she has first hit ability at her range. She's got crazy range. She also has her AoE attack, similar to Jade and Regent, and she's got crazy reach, like I said. The other big benefit compared to Jade and Regent is that you don't have to buy a hammer or axe to be able to start using her. So her early game is by far beyond Jade and Regent because you don't have to buy the sword to be able to start doing the jump. Her only 2 negatives are that the sword upgrades do cost more than the other kits, and you do need to pre-charge your leap before you do it. So if you're, thinking you could just jump straight into the void and then do a jump, you're going to be just falling straight into the void. You have to pre-charge it. YUZI is easily a 10 out of 10. One of my mains. I like to use her often. Next one, number 3, is a new kit, and that's the Conqueror. A name well earned, the Conqueror has the ability to spawn damage, defense, and heal banners that boost your character. The banners are cheap for early game and almost guarantee you're going to win pretty much every battle you use with him, unless maybe you're, under geared. The other crazy thing about him is other players can use his banners too. So you can drop your banners to other players, and which is making some crazy abuse right now. There's people combining static with fire, as you've seen in some of my other videos. I've done that plenty. But once you start doing that against a lot of players, it won't stop. It just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading, which is really abusive. I'm seeing a lot of players using it in 30v30s, but that just shows you a little bit of this kit's power, and that you get instant fire damage and you get heals. It's just crazy. So this kit is really powerful. Like I said, you can drop these banners to your teammates and they get, fire damage. And that's what I've done a few times with some of my friends, is we'll go in and we will just destroy with banners. It's so much fun. The only reason why this kit is not number 1 out of all of them is we've got Barbarian and we got AERY coming up. I mean, that's all I gotta say. I mean, late game, those things have so much damage. You're not gonna be able to compete as a Conqueror. I mean, Barbarian and AERY are gonna be able to just go and get their own enchants, it's GG. Easily a 10 out of 10 kit though. Coming up with number 2 is not a surprise, and that's the Barbarian. He's currently the best kit in the game that you can buy because the other kit is a Battle Pass kit, but he does require skill to use him. So Barbarian just requires Rage, which is built by damaging other players. The more players you damage, the better weapons you get or swords you get. Now, the downside of this is there's the opposite effect is if you die, you start losing Rage and you're going to start losing your weapon upgrades, which is a downer, right? And the other thing is you cannot buy swords. So if you are not building enough Rage and upgrading your weapons fast enough, someone can actually outgear you, and that could be your doom. So you need to be really careful with Barbarian, which is the skill part. You need to do a lot of damage, and you can't be dying a lot. So if you keep dying, you're going to lose your weapon upgrades, and you're just going to get outgeared because you can't buy your weapons. You can't fix what you just lost. So that's why it's very important. You do need to have some skill with Barbarian and not die, and you need to do a lot of damage. You don't have to do a lot of kills. You just need to do a lot of damage. Either way, the Barbarian is an insane late game kit and difficult to kill if you feed him too much and he gets that Rage Blade. Obviously, 10 out of 10. Finally, no surprise, the kit of all kits is AERY. AERY gains sword damage the more you kill, so the reason why she's better than the Barbarian though is simple. If you die, you don't lose that damage bonus, making her much easier to use, and you can also buy swords, making it possible for you to outgear a Barbarian quickly. The proof that AERY is better than a Rage Blade wielding Barbarian is that I've killed Barbarians who have those Rage Blades attacking me with an Iron Sword. So I've literally killed them with Iron Sword as AERY, against a Rage Blade user, and I've done it so many times. I know how powerful this kit is. It is way better than Barbarian late game. If you let me get fed and you have the same number of kills as I do, you can get 50 kills as a Barbarian. A 50 kill AERY is just going to destroy you, even with the wooden sword. So that's my point here is AERY is just hands down way better. Again, AERY is huge. She's the most powerful and dangerous kit currently in the game, except early game. That's her only downside is she's not very good early game until you start stacking and start building up. Then she's good, and you do need kills in order to be able to get her damage up. So if you're not very good at killing in the game, she's not the kit for you. She would not be your number 1 kit at that point. I would recommend ELDERTREE or Axolotl Amy in that situation. Only downside about AERY, you can't get her anymore. If you didn't grind that battle pass, you can't get her. Now that we've covered damage dealers, let's take a look at the farming kits in the game. Starting with number 7 is Farmer CLETUS, our OG of farmers. This kit requires you to spend a huge amount of resources up front in order to get diamonds and emeralds by planting either care crops or watermelon crops. These things take forever. Let me just tell you, it takes forever to grow these. Not only does it take forever to get that 110 iron to be able to get your first carrot, it just takes forever. It's 110 to get 1 diamond, 110 iron to get 1 diamond later, and you have to keep doing that over and over and over. The problems with this also is that it doesn't stop there. Your crops can be destroyed very easily by enemies. This makes this kit a huge challenge to just keep in the game. Like, unless you're in a turtle situation where you have a solid fortress protecting you and your crops, I'd skip this kit, over at least some of the others because it's just not that good. I'm sorry if you're a huge fan of CLETUS, I'm so sorry, but it's just not as good as some of the other kits I'm about to show you. For that, I'm rating it a 4 out of 10. Next with number 6 is Bounty Hunter. And I know what you're thinking, DAVEY. I destroy players with Bounty Hunter, and I totally would believe you if you're in a small game mode like solos or duels. But in squads or any other match where there's a lot of players, you're not going to be getting your target often enough to be able to have any farm benefit from that. With Bounty Hunter, you get a mark or target randomly, and once you kill that player, you get emeralds, and then it moves to another player. This is insanely powerful for matches like duels where you don't have that many targets to kill for the benefit, which is why I'm going to be recommending some other kits over this one. Depends on the mode. This kit is really good in duels and doubles. I'm rating Bounty Hunter as 6 out of 10. Next up is number 5 with Beekeeper Beatrice. The crazy thing about this kit is that once you upgrade the beehive with enough bees, the resource collection is the greatest out of all farming kits currently in this video or even in the game. However, the kit's weakness is that, for one, you need to wander the entire map for collecting bees, which does take some time. It's not terrible, okay? It's pretty easy to find bees, but it does take time, and you have to wait a long time before you can start earning any resources early game. Unlike some of the other kits I'm going to show you, some of those you get stuff right away. The other is if someone takes out your hive, fireball or whatnot, you're back to square one. So you're starting over with your resources. You don't have that resource pool anymore or that drip. The kit is also only good in certain modes where your squad isn't going to grief you. So modes like 30v30 aren't going to be great for this kit because players can just grief you and take out your hives, which they always do. They always do that to me. I plant my hive, they take it out. Still an insanely good kit if you know how to use her. I'm rating Beatrice 8 out of 10. Next up at number 4 is Miner, which gives you resources from killing other players. And so when you kill a player, they're turned into stone, which you can then break to farm resources out of that. This can make you very rich very quickly, giving you an early game advantage since there's no upfront cost to getting like a pickaxe or anything to use this kit's ability. The only negatives is that, you know, what I've seen is if you kill a player and knock them into the void, you obviously aren't going to get any stone from that because their body's in the void. The other is that it does take a little bit of time to harvest the resources, put you in a vulnerable place. Like you can still get killed. If there's another person attacking, you're not going to be able to get those resources until they finish attacking. Still a really insanely fun and powerful kit to use for farming and gearing quickly, especially if you're defending. Easily a 9 out of 10 kit. Next up at number 3 is Fisherman. This kit is insanely good and fun to use as well. You fish into the void for a chance to get emeralds, iron, diamonds, obsidian, and various items like fireballs and balloons. It's a really chill kit, and the price for the fishing pole is pretty cheap. I've played plenty of rounds with other fishermen where we never had to leave the base to outgear every player in the match, and we typically get called hackers because of it. I'm going to rate this one 10 out of 10, if only the kit was still available for purchase. Next one, number 2, is a new kit, which is the Cyber Kit. The Cyber Kit lets players fly a drone around the map to collect resources and return them to base. You can even steal iron from other bases and use them to even spy on other teams. You can gear your team quickly with drones, but they do have a couple downsides. First, when you're in the drone view, much like the Vulcan, you're completely vulnerable to other players attacking you, so you can't see what's going on around you. They could be attacking you, they could be killing you. The other is it's really situational. This, you know, drone can be really powerful if you're not going up against a bunch of other drones. But if you're sharing the resources with other drones, meaning you're competing for those resources, then it could actually backfire on you. You might not have any resources to gather because you can't get them. They're getting them before you. And if that's the situation or that's the case, then you would have been better off with some other farming kit like a fisherman. Even with all those negatives, this kit is easily a 10 out of 10 with how annoyingly powerful it is. And finally, with number 1 is the metal detector. This kit is insanely good, and you're going to find a lot of pro players using it as their main kit. This kit makes it so you rarely ever have to go back to the generator. In fact, like you can just pretty much just go out and roam the map and look for resources to gather and just go find the nearest shop and buy what you need. I've had a situation where I never had to go and sit on a generator. I never had to come back to base because I'm outgearing my team that's sitting on the generator. Easily the best farming kit currently in the game, but you know, you got to take your pick of any of the top 5 farming kits and you're in pretty much good shape in most games. So if you're just looking for a decent farming kit, any of these top 5 are going to be great for you. Sorry for farming CLETUS, sorry Bounty Hunter. Those are just going to be a little tougher, but yeah, any of these kits, but metal detector is still definitely my favorite out of these. This video took forever, by the way, to record, test, create for you. And so if you made it to the end, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, I'm so exhausted. This had to be the hardest video I've done in a long time. It just took so long. It took literally 2 days to make. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what your top like 5 kits are in the game. Do you agree with this list? What would you change about it? And I'll see y'all in the next vid. Peace.